Connection channel. My name is Bobby Umar, and happy Monday to everybody. Hope you're doing really, really well. Today, I want to talk about something that's comes up a lot for people, and maybe also something that we also do ourselves, which is people who shut down conversations and dealing with those types of people. That is something that I think a lot of us struggle with, and it happens to us all the time. And so I want to get into a conversation about that. Now, if you are joining me today, first off, I'm here every Monday to Friday at 8:45 a.m. Sometimes I do 12 noon, but normally I do 8:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about issues around career development, leadership, personal branding, public speaking, entrepreneurship, all the things that I'm passionate about in terms of my work as a speaker and a coach. And if you are joining me again and you like what you're seeing, please be sure to like, clap, heart, light bulb into this face, share comments below. Let me know where you're from, first of all, and let me know if you ever dealt with a time where you had to deal with somebody who shut down your conversation, or if you struggled to shut down a conversation that was hard for you to shut down. But I want to focus on dealing with those who shut down your conversations when you're trying to have something. And I'll tell the story, I'll tell a quick story, which is on Twitter. So on Twitter a couple of days ago, someone was talking about a sensitive issue. And there's lots of sensitive issues out there, and for some people are sensitive about issues that I'm not, and vice versa. But what was interesting was that I was agreeing with that person's point, but I said maybe perhaps we shouldn't shut down the conversation on the other person that they were critiquing, and I said let's invite them to the conversation and try to find a way to make things happen. And then as soon as I did that, they responded in anger. And I think for the most part, people, when they try to shut down conversations, they respond in anger or insecurity or fear or whatever it might be, and told me to, sit down and shut up, basically, right? And then when I said, look, I'm just trying to have a conversation and learn more, and then at the second tweet, they said, well, listen, what do you know about this? And do you care about this? And then they started making all these unfounded assumptions, which funny. It was ironic because they didn't realize what a supporter I was. I actually originally had retweeted and liked their tweet, and I was just trying to engage in a conversation. And that kind of stuff happens, like people shut down conversations all the time. Another example of a shutting down a conversation is, years ago when I worked as an engineer, I worked with a boss who was a very stubborn person, and he didn't want to dive into the issues, whatever that was brought up. And I remember someone, one or two of us had brought up something, and he's just like, no, this is the way we're going to do it because I have 20 years experience, I know what I'm talking about, and that's it. And he said that without even having some sort of thoughtful analysis of the situation. And again, looking back, I think part of it was, I realized as a person he was very defensive of the fact that he was somebody that didn't have much education but had a lot of experience. And so when people with education were commenting on the theoretical stuff and trying to dive into stuff, he was very defensive about it. And again, that happens. I mean, I do that too. I'll get defensive about things that I may want to shut down a conversation sometimes if I'm getting uncomfortable, or I feel like I've explored the issue enough, or I feel like we're just going in circles and things like that. So it does happen. Now, so has that happened to you? If so, comment below. Let me know kind of, and I see some people are commenting. So hello, welcome from Virginia, and welcome, it looks like from, what's that, so Hawaii? Where is that from? And that's Illinois. Okay, good. So if you're joining us, please share where you're from. Let us know where you're from, and then also share, have you ever dealt with a situation where someone shut down a conversation on you? How did you manage? Or on the other side, have you shut down a conversation, and why'd you do that? And what was the reaction? So I just share with you two stories in terms of, hey, welcome from Olympia. That's great. I've been shut down conversations many times partially because I think I'm the type of person. Welcome Istanbul, cool. I've been shut down from conversation because I typically am willing to ask difficult and challenging questions. I'm willing to challenge the status quo. I'm willing to take on the dark subjects or the tough topics, and other people are uncomfortable with that, and they get thrown off, and they want to just shut down the conversation, and that happens, right? Now, welcome from Pune, India, cool. So what do I do when it comes to shutting down a conversation? How do I manage it? Well, again, the first step is always the same thing when it comes to dealing with any sort of thing, any sort of person's reaction, whether it's positive, negative, confusing, troll-like, a manager shuts you down, a friend who shuts you down, or whatever it might be, or even a partner shuts you down. Number one, start with empathy. And empathy is the idea, can I understand where this person is coming from? Can I understand how this person's feeling? Can I understand why they're feeling this way? And then finally, can I support how they're feeling? And that's a big one. See, like, it's fine to understand or try to empathize how they're feeling and understand that. But the big thing comes with, can you actually support their feelings? I mean, you may not be able to. You may say, look, I can't support that feeling of, some sort of crazy, Nazism type thing, right? But I mean, or killing people. But like, you can find a way to at least respond back and bring the conversation to something that is more amenable to what you're trying to do, and try to bridge an understanding. So number one, I start with empathy. That's the first thing, and that helps me not take it too hard. And I will admit the tweet thing, I was taken aback, and I think I got a bit defensive. And the reason is because they attacked me on a conversation that I definitely was fully engaged in and was quite familiar with, and I knew, and I had a lot of people that I was engaged with in that conversation. And it was about diversity, which is one of my biggest topics. And I was like, you have no idea how much of an advocate I've been for the issue you think I'm not part of. And I retweet stuff all the time. I engage in conversations. I said, like, I'm one of the biggest advocates for your issue, and yet here you are shutting me down. If you're shutting me down, how can you bring other people? Like, if you want to actually bring people to your cause, you have to be able to engage in conversations and take alternate points of view, listen to them, and try to convince them of your point of view. Absolutely, but don't shut it down, because that's not going to go anywhere. And so that's kind of what happened, and I got defensive. And next thing you know, I'm in the car. The car was on, right? We had left it. But I'm in the car tweeting back and forth, and my kid's like, "Daddy, when are we leaving?" I'm like, hold on a second. And I spent about 10 minutes tweeting with this person, because I was like, what? And I'm trying to clarify my position. No, here's my position. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I advocate for. I'm just trying to have a conversation. I'm just asking a question. So it was like, I got a little bit defensive. So, but again, going back to how to manage it, I think it's important to find a way to clarify your position. So maybe in the moment, it's not the best time to turn into a yelling match or you start talking about it, because that person's not even listening. You may want to book a courageous conversation later on, or write down a letter and then express that somewhere. Say, listen, and do it a few days later when everyone's calmed down, or when everyone's in a completely different mood. Say, listen, just want to follow up on that conversation and just want to clarify a couple of things. I understand you're coming from, and make sure you say, I understand from you, it was this. My point was really this, and I think it turned into something else, and I apologize that it got out of whack, but this is really the position, the point I wanted to make. And so you want to clarify your position at another point in time. Now, sometimes you need to clarify your position in the moment, and that does happen. And if you do that, you want to make sure you do it in a very, very calm and concise way. Because if you don't, you're going to escalate the situation to something worse. And number two, you're going to potentially, fire them up, and they're going to respond back also not much in kind. It looks like more people here. Hey, Panaki and Major and Ahmad and Rahul and wow, all those people. Kathy, lots of people. I wish I could see the things better here. I can't see the comments. I'm going to try to reload the thing, and see if I can see the comments. So for me, those are some of the things that I'm doing to try to, manage that. Now, have I ever shut down a conversation? Sometimes I do, because I feel like for me, the only times of conversation I've shut down are ones where it's just going on in circles. I remember talking to a friend of mine, and it was one of those situations where I kept giving. She kept asking for my advice. I gave her my advice, and then she kept bringing back the same issue over. I was like, "We already talked about this, for the third time. For the third time, this is what you need to do. Boom, boom, boom." And then after a certain point, I was like, "You know what? Like, we're going on." And I just said very nicely, "Look, I've already given my position several times. You can either take it or you don't. But you keep going back to the same thing. We're repeating. So either we can move to a new topic or talk about something else. Let me know. But at this point, I think we need to move on to something else. I don't want to shut it down necessarily. I say we can revisit it, but I'll revisit a new issue." Okay, some people are just giving some great comments here. Hey, there's Teresa. True sales guy can't burn the bridge ever. That's true. In sales, you can't shut down the conversation. Sales, of course, sometimes it takes 8 to 10 to 12 conversations to get to that actual that win. Tima, hey, go Bobby, thanks, man. Good to see you. What else here? There's Gina. Usually shutting down a conversation comes from a fight or flight response to a conversation. Yeah, good idea, good point. So helping understand, not fix their feelings is very helpful. Thanks. Getting common ground to find out what is less scary than the other person. Yeah. Social media, best time to delete a post or unfriend those who are hostile. Well, I mean, in terms of unfriending or a post as a hostile, I will try to bring it back once or twice, but at a certain point, like once for someone that I don't know, twice for someone who is a friend, and at that point, then I'll just move on. Will I unfriend them? No. Like people are angry, they have their issues, whatever. I'm willing to forgive. So the other big thing with empathy comes with forgiveness. Like you got to forgive yourself for getting caught up in that. You got to forgive the other person for maybe not seeing things, or maybe they're having a bad day. You never know. Like you don't know what people are going through. So I typically don't do that. Now there's some people who time and time again demonstrate that you can't have a healthy dialogue with them. Then that's a different piece. If that happens like 2 or 3 times in different dialogues, then at that point, like, you know what, I don't need this stuff, and I'll create space. Kathy says, I've never shut down a conversation in any rudely fashion. Well, you know what, like, and even if you have, it's okay. Like, it's forgivable. Like, we all get caught up in that stuff. I'm sure I've been rude a couple times to shut down a conversation. But, we have to still, at the end of the day, like, try to treat people with dignity, as you said, and, have better manners, be more civil. All suffering is caused by the self. That's good. If I'm not done speaking, I'll speak about that. I believe the key word here is self-management, self-mastery. A big part of it can be, chronic is what Gina's saying. A big part of it is managing your emotions, self-mastery, managing your mindset, and things like that around these things that come up all the time. So it's important for us to understand that. Now, if you guys like what you're hearing in the conversation, comment below and let me know where you're from. Let me know if you've had a situation or a question about how to deal with when people shut down conversations, whether it's on Twitter, or it's a boss or a manager, or it's your partner or your parents. Comment below, ask a question, let me know what you think, and I can certainly answer it. I typically try to keep these, I start at 8:45 a.m. and I try to keep them short, maybe 15, 20 minutes, but if there's lots of questions, I'll answer as many as I can. And of course, you like what you're hearing, like, comment, share us on your page, tag people, get them part of the conversation. I'd love to have more people join my daily broadcast, the Power Connection broadcast, and we can have a nice conversation about this. And this is where I'm. And if you want more information, check out my links. You can check my company page. I share exclusive content in those different sections. All right. Let's see. Anybody else have any other questions here? There's some really good engagement here, which I appreciate. So. Now, if you're the one who has shut down a conversation, and how do you want to manage that? Well, I think then you have to own it. Number one, own it, and anyone you felt that was addressed in a negative way, whether it's for me, probably my biggest shutdown conversation has probably been with my wife. She and I both have done that to each other, and I think that's where we say, listen, I'm sorry for shutting down the conversation. If you want, here's my situation. Here's what I'm thinking. If there's a way that you want to, you want to talk more about it, I'm open to it, and leave room for another time. When people shut down your conversation, I think it's always good to clarify your position, whether you do it immediately or whether you do it at a later date. But at some point, you want to clarify your position. It's good for your own head too, to kind of get it out there, and you feel like it's not hanging on your head, and you can't get enough sleep and things like that. Vinay says, "Hello, Bobby. I believe people shut down conversations mostly because they have nothing to add that's not bias or prejudice." Sure, I think that's one of the reasons. There are many reasons that people shut down conversations. I mean, again, they're uncomfortable, they're angry, they don't like when someone makes a cogent point to their argument that takes away from their argument, the strength of their argument, and makes them look bad. So there are lots of things that, and again, those are all based on some sort of bias or prejudice. I get that. But sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's, they don't realize what's going on. So, that's why I said the number one step to start with the shut down conversation shutters is to have empathy, and then clarify our position and kind of where you are and what you're trying to do. That's kind of my take on that. And it looks like a lot of people are joining today, which is great. I appreciate that. Again, at this point, we're almost 50 minutes in. So if you have any questions on shutting down conversations, how to manage that with your manager or your team person or whatever, you can ask questions below. Let me know where you're from too. You can also engage people on the post and ask questions there. But that's really what, and if you have any questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, we'll shut down for today. Gina says, I like the idea of let's talk again so we can have time to think over each other's position. Yeah, because tempers can cool and reason comes back. Absolutely, and you can find a solution. Now sometimes that's a good point, Gina. So sometimes let's take this on another time, or you know what? Sometimes it's so heated you don't want to say anything. You just leave, and you leave, and then you say, and then you follow up with a couple 2 days later saying, listen, I just want to. Our tempers flared back then. I want to follow up on a conversation and just clarify my position. If that's okay, and then just kind of do that. There's a question. What's the question here? Whoops. Let me see here. Vinay says, "What do you think should be a best response for such situations?" Well, Vinay, I've already answered that in the post, but you probably joined late. But I basically said that number one, start with empathy to understand where they're coming from, how they're feeling, see if you can support their feelings. But if you can't or you're not sure, number two, you can say, "Listen, I think we should. You need to clarify your position." I think that's really important. And refute anything that was missaid about you. But you can either do it then or you can do it later. You say, listen, I'll deal with this. I'll do this. I just want to, before I leave and end this conversation, I'd like to clarify my position. Are you willing to listen? And you say that. You invite them to listen. So I've done this with my mom. Like, Mom, I'm going to say something. Are you willing to listen? And then she says, okay. And when she says okay, she gives you permission to say what you want to say. And then I say it. No matter how upsetting it might be for her or whatever. Or you say, listen, I'd like to start this conversation another time because I think right now it's a little bit heated. Or 2 days later, you say, listen, I want to follow up on the conversation we had. It was a bit heated. I think let's talk when we're a little more rational, and we book a courageous conversation in advance. So these are all different things you can do to deal with the conversation. And if you want to really make, like in the workplace environment situation, one of the things I often do is I'll cite the values of the company and the goals of the team, in order to say, listen, it's really important for the team that we meet our deadlines and we, stay productive and we try to, listen to each other as part of the company values of empathy and loyalty and teamwork. So based on those, I'd like to actually, talk about that. No, it's always good to repeat stuff. So yeah, exactly. So it's okay. Don't worry. I'm happy to repeat what I'm doing and what I'm talking about. Exactly. The idea is to ingrain the tips, right? So. Okay, so it looks like so we've covered all that. So we've talked about how to deal with people who shut down conversations, which happens all the time. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, as well as in the workplace with your boss, your work colleagues, a CEO, an entrepreneur, a sales call, your family, your mom, your parents, your partner, even your kids. Right? Kids who don't want to talk anymore. With kids, one of the things I say sometimes, like, look. It's okay if you don't want to talk about it right now. I'll give you some space, but we'll have to talk about it later, okay? And let them know that I will. And my kids have done that. Like my daughter's like, she gets very angry and about something. It's like, it's okay. You want to calm down and have some space. That's fine. I'll give you space. But please know that we will have to talk about this later. And I make that very, very clear. I don't even ask for permission. I say it's going to happen, and whether you want to or not, because she'll realize later on when she's calm, it's going to be, but she's 8, and so when she freaks out, like, what are you going to do, right? You can't. There's no reasoning with an angry 8-year-old or even an angry 72-year-old. I mean, who knows what happens sometimes. So that's my take for today. If anyone has any more questions, last minute, you can put them there. Otherwise, I'll end for today. It's been a great conversation. Thanks so much. Tomorrow I'll be here again. I believe I might be bringing a guest, and it might be starting a little bit late, maybe 9:15 or so, with my friend Natalia to see if she joins us to want to talk about some of the topics she cares about, because I'm meeting her in the morning. And otherwise, wish you guys all the best. Check out the links below. Check out my company page. And again, join me every day for my Power of Connection broadcast at 8:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, thanks so much, and talk soon. And I'll let this run for another 20 seconds because often it gets cut off. Okay, just to let you know. But I'm moving on to the stuff. All right. 20 seconds.